Hi guys, how's it going? So imagine that, it's Friday evening after a week of hard work. You don't have anything planned over the weekend and you know you can relax and play some of your favorite games. You scroll through your library and you see some shooter games, maybe some of those games got zombies in them. You also may have some games which are based in sort of a medieval fantasy settings, potentially something about European folklore like Nordic mythology or Greek mythology. No matter how many titles you might have in your library, you might be thinking, well, I love those games, but I experienced them before. But then, on the day of the 20th of August 2024, you see this. You might be thinking, this game, it's beautiful. It's so familiar yet so different, and you play as a monkey. Following the release of Myth Wukong, this game immediately got the status of legendary game by breaking all the records of concurrent players, reaching 2.2 million of players within 24 hours after the release. And of course, with a big release like this, we got a bit of a controversy, such as the one describing the stream which was having some unusual stream rules, such as the one forbidding mentioning COVID-19, isolation, or feminist propaganda. Whatever it might mean. And in addition to this, there are mentioning of the situation in country of origin of Myth Wukong, which was produced by Chinese studio Game Science. Of course, there are talks about how Chinese government is an authoritarian regime, and without a doubt, we have to keep in mind those things, and we need to be aware about the situation in the world. Something similar, in fact, was happening with the release of Atomic Heart, which was released during the peak of ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. However, without a doubt, we have to say that Myth Wukong is revolutionary in some sense. Of course, it's a beautiful game which came out in a very good state. There are not that many bugs or glitches. Your PC might need a good specs in order to run it, but when it does, it's running smoothly and looking beautiful. But there is something else. Referring to the start of this video, tell me how many times in the past we got a game that does a deep dive into Chinese folklore and mythology. Sure, we got Sekiro or Nioh, and even to some extent games from Dark Souls series that refer to the Japanese culture and its tales. And it's said that Japanese culture got very popular in the West with Bushido RPG game, which came out in 1979. Although there are some similarities between Japanese and Chinese culture, they are profoundly different. Another reason for low exposure of the West to Chinese mythology is the fact that West had much lower exposure to Chinese culture in the past, comparing to, for example, Japanese culture, and the fact that Chinese folklore consists of the mixture of thousands of local tribes, cultures, with different Chinese dialects that make the material very difficult to translate and not accessible for Western audience.
It's called hentai, and it's art.
But finally, we got the title that has been made by a Chinese studio which definitely had much easier access to ancient Chinese tales, which they could incorporate to the tale of Journey to the West, which is the main source material for Myth Wukong. The modern 100-chapter form of Journey to the West dates back to 16th century. However, the original stories of the ancient Chinese monk Xue Zhang, sorry if I pronounce it wrong, who traveled through Asia and Middle East have circulated as oral stories and can be dated back to 7th century. Of course, I would like to talk in details about the backstory to give more in-depth description of some of the characters and stories showing up in Myth Wukong, but this is content for another video. What I would like to do as an introduction is to give an outline of what Chinese folklore represents. Have you noticed that in, for example, ancient Greek mythology, as long as we know that gods could turn themselves into animals, like for example Zeus, when he turned himself into a bull or swan and did his malevolent acts, they could even transform into plants and different objects, but we still perceive those gods as humans with some supernatural abilities, in some sense. Similarly, in Nordic mythology, Odin and Loki could transform into various animals, including birds or horses. Furthermore, Mythical animals, such as serpents or dragons, were usually perceived as antagonists in European folklore. In Chinese folklore, a popular modern story has it that the order of the animals in the 12-year cycle, which reflect Chinese philosophy and culture, was due to a competition between animal candidates held by a ruler of heaven, earth and hell, the Jade Emperor. This can further relate to the basic concept of the universe, which are primordial gods, which very often describe the pivotal and basic elements of the universe, such as earth, air, sea, sky, fresh water, underworld, darkness, night, light, day, procreation, and time. According to one version of this tale, the Emperor's advisor selected 12 candidates from among the animals type that included rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig.
Brother, may I have some oats?
The winner was to be selected based upon merit as to personal appearance, lifestyle, and contributions to the world. Already in 134 BC in China, appearances of auspicious creatures serve as a sign of prosperous reigns and flourishing eras. This made Chinese culture and folklore to embrace animal and their patterns on jewelry, clothing, and architecture. Among these legendary creatures, 4 stand out as particularly miraculous, benevolent, and auspicious: the dragon, the phoenix, the quail, and the turtle. Now, after this brief introduction into the importance of animals in ancient China, we have to look back at Black Myth Wukong and its main character, Sun Wukong. A monkey king. What else there is to say, to be honest? He's a monkey. Mentioning of monkeys in Chinese folklore can be already noted back in 14th century BC. Monkey could often represent mischievous child, a wild, crazy, uncivilized person, and roguish person. In zodiac symbolism, monkey are natural go-getters who are clever, lively, and witty animals. It's also very often described as intelligent animal with amazing agility. Then we have tiger, who are personification of war and often represent the highest army generals. Since its obvious connotation with war, tiger symbolism bravery and strength. Tiger is known as the king of the beasts throughout Chinese culture. Its imagery has been used as a talisman for soldiers, signifying the animal's importance as a leader and how its realm is one where demons would be unwise to tread.
You bird-faced mug.
Another noteworthy animal are rats, who represent wisdom, wealth and prosperity. And going back to the beginning of this video, rat is the first animal that arrived when Jade Emperor called the animals to appoint the zodiac signs. So the rat starts the 12-year cycle. Important side note that does not necessarily relate to Chinese mythology is the fact that the climate of the whole China was much milder in the ancient times, and the presence of tigers and elephants across whole land of China was very common. Wild animal species that were present across the China landscape include panthers, leopards, bears, sables, otters, monkeys, wolves, foxes, 27 or more species of ruminants, and numerous species of rodents. With such biodiversity across China biomes, make it much more likely for people of China to be exposed to those animals and embrace them in the folklore. So those are just a couple of animals that you can find in the beginning of Black Myth Wukong. I don't think I even scratched the tip of the Chinese mythology iceberg with this video, but I believe I've nicely outlined how deeply rooted animals are in Chinese folklore and how they constitute a pivotal building block in the construction of the universe in Chinese mythology. To compare Black Myth Wukong to another game and why it might be so popular and interesting for Western audience is the success of Witcher 3. Of course, similarly to Wukong, during its release, Witcher 3 was a very beautiful game with very interesting story and characters, with a lot of unique mechanisms and things to do in the game world. However, it also presented the mythology of Eastern Europe, or to be more specific, Slavic folklore, to Western audience, who never had exposure to those tales in the past. And Witcher 3 story is one of the aspects that made the game so beloved by the gamers. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. I know there is a lot of things I could mention that I haven't in this video, but I believe that all of us got a nice overview about Chinese mythology and how it influenced Chinese folklore and culture. I hope to make more videos like this in the future, so stay tuned and I see you in the next one.